Children and teens today are navigating some extremely difficult situations and issues. We're living in a time in our world when popular culture and cultural beliefs absolutely contradict the clear teachings of Scripture. And so when inevitable questions arise, you have parents and grandparents who oftentimes do not feel equipped, but in reality, they must be equipped with sound biblical answers to help guide their children through these days. And trust me, if parents and grandparents are not able to teach their children and help navigate them through these issues, the world will certainly do it. I know my wife and I just came off about 5 weeks of involvement with what we call a grandkids camp, where we bring them in every summer and just try to invest in them and these things. But listen, some of these issues are tough. Well, we have a husband and wife duo, Andrew and Christian Walker. They've recently released an incredible book, a trusted guide that's designed to help parents quickly and effectively respond to some of these important issues on a wide range of topics, everything from abortion to sexuality, transgenderism, technology, political engagement, a host of things. So joining me now to discuss this are Dr. Andrew Walker and his wife, Christian. They are authors of the book, What to Say When, A Parent's Guide to Navigating Cultural Chaos for Children and Teens. Dr. and Mrs. Walker, welcome to Washington Watch. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, so congratulations on this book. Andrew, I know you've written a number of books on a variety of topics, from natural law to transgenderism to religious liberty. What is it about the current culture and the current movement that prompted the two of you to unite efforts and forces and to write this book right now when you did?
Well, we see ourselves living in a really chaotic and tumultuous point in time right now in the American history. And what we decided to do is to use our relative talents and gifts as an ethics professor at Southern Seminary, and then my wife as an elementary school teacher, to kind of fuse our talents together to want to do the very thing that I think we have to do in this moment, which is to equip the next generation with biblical truth. And the front line with that is the parents. It's the front lines of the local church. And sadly, we don't have a lot of resources right now, making that accessible and easy for parents who are caught up in 1,000 different things every single day to help equip their kids.
So, Christian, I know there was a specific, and I'd like to hear this, I'd like for our audience to hear this, a specific incident that made you realize just how necessary a resource like this would be for parents. Tell us about that.
I am constantly caught off guard when my kids ask me questions in the car and on the way home from school. And our daughter saw some yard signs at a recent election that we were having. There were signs to vote yes for an abortion amendment and no for an abortion amendment. And she was asking about, why do some people have a yes for this and a no for that? And so we had to have a conversation about what abortion was and why some people had yard signs for that abortion amendment and no for that abortion amendment. She's 8 years old at the time. And so we weren't quite ready to have to say, are parents equipped to have these conversations that encounter politics and abortion rights and human dignity and all of these really controversial subjects with their children in age-appropriate ways, all because she saw yard signs in our neighborhood. And so I really wanted to be a part of doing this with Andrew, who often hears parents ask these questions when he speaks around the country. How do I have these conversations with my kids? And so I needed this as a parent myself. And we wanted to be a part of bringing this to parents.
And I can't tell you, and I know that you know this because I talk to a lot of parents as well, a resource like this is desperately needed. I mean, we're living in a time, unfortunately, where so many churches are not addressing these issues. And so people are not getting a biblical worldview perspective by and large. Certainly, there are some that are, thank God for that. But a resource to help parents look at these issues, and as you said, Christian, in an age appropriate way to deal with them is just incredibly important. Well, let's talk about some of the issues. Andrew, I'll start with you, but we can go back and forth. Let's talk some about the issues that you discuss, abortion, sexuality, transgenderism. You know them a whole lot better than I do. What are some of these issues? Let's go through some of them.
Sure. So I think we're living in a moment right now where the attack on the human person is where the enemy is most fervently set his sights and set his targets on. And so what we wanted to do in a book like this is not use terms like theological anthropology, but to think about if the most important question in our age right now is what does it mean to be a human? And to ask the question, where is the enemy attacking the image of God? Well, that necessarily is going to bring us to issues of abortion. It's going to bring us to issues of human dignity writ large. But then it's also going to bring us to issues like the purpose of our embodiment as males and females, which that is then going to speak to issues regarding gender identity type topics. And so we wanted to be clear about what we believe the Bible teaches on these issues. But we wanted to do this, again, in an age-appropriate, accessible way. I know that I'm a professor, and so I had to constantly work against the temptation to want to be kind of heady and academic. And so what we really strove to do in this volume is to make it as accessible as possible. I would write something maybe a little bit challenging or heady, and my wife would say, nope, rewrite that statement. And so that was what our intention was, because, again, you can have the right ideas, but if you're not communicating the right ideas in the right ways to the right people, all we're doing is just leaving the battlefield. We're leaving the battlefield, and we're not necessarily even fighting the right ways. And what we know right now is that the enemy is seeking to kill, steal, and destroy. And we believe with a biblical worldview, it produces the only truest, fullest account of human flourishing and human dignity.
Absolutely. So, Christian, thank you for the admonition you gave to make it readable. To doing so makes it something that the rest of us can understand and greatly utilize. So let's talk about, Christian, all right, transgenderism. Andrew brought that up, the essence of male and female. How do you deal with that in a book like this in an age-appropriate way?
Well, the first part of each chapter is specifically for parents to understand what the Bible says about each topic. So it's going to be a little bit more in depth. And then after that, each cultural, controversial topic is broken down into 3 floors. The first floor is the most simple, basic, around age 4 to 8. The second floor is around age 8 to 12, and the third floor is around age 12 to 16 or 18. So it kind of starts to build a little bit. But with transgenderism, we really want to focus on starting with understanding that God made us with our bodies, male and female, in Genesis 1, and that's really good. And so instead of all these topics, but transgenderism especially, instead of looking at these topics in a negative light, we're not going to change our bodies, we're not going to do anything wrong, giving a different light on these, looking at these topics from a good perspective. What does God's plan look like in a good way, in God's good and natural plan? It looks like having a male and female body that was made differently on purpose in a good way. And so starting that with little 4 and 5-year-olds, you are a boy and you are a girl, and that is good. And boys and girls are different, and that is good. And then just slowly building upon the differences in that. But we've also have parts in the book where we have some questions, some prompts that parents can ask their kids. And starting in that second floor, we've developed some questions for parents to start asking. Have you ever felt different in your body? have you had any friends that have ever felt different in your body? We want parents to start having an open dialogue with their kids about those kinds of feelings that their children might be experiencing, because they need to be able to have those conversations and be able to stand up with the truth with those children, to know that those are just feelings. We are not going to change the biology that God has given us, but parents can work through those feelings with their kids, or help their children have conversations with their friends to know what the truth is against the lies of culture that are happening around them right now.
Excellent. I think one of the issues that many parents need help with, I mean, all these issues, all of them, parents, grandparents need help with. But one of them that it's almost become such a norm is these little things right here, the technology. Everybody's walking around with these things. And we know the Bible does not speak to technology per se, but the principles certainly do. Andrew, how do you deal with this? How do you help parents understand both the dangers but the proper use of technology?
Yeah, what a great question. I think it begins exactly where you began, which is putting this in the category of wisdom, putting this in the category of parental authority. And it seems unwise to hand over an incredibly powerful device that can take a child anywhere the child wants to go without any guard limits, without any types of protections in place. And so one of the things that we're talking about in this book, and we're not necessarily super tech savvy individuals ourselves, but all we're trying to do is to say, parents, you have been placed in your child's life as an authority, which means you have wisdom and you have discretion over them, which means the first thing you can do with technology is to simply be intentional about it, have a plan about it. We know a lot of individuals, it seems, who have basically just handed a phone over to a child with complete unrestricted access. And I think in this culture, that is more or less a nuclear weapon getting ready to go off. And so what we've even done with our young 13-year-old at this point, and again, we're not trying to say that we've solved this mystery ourselves, but we've been really pleased so far with our child and the technology that she has, because she has limits on it. And I think a lot of times parents aren't even aware of the limits and the kind of tools at their disposal that these technology units allow us to have in order to protect our children. And so it's really an educational issue as much as it is a wisdom issue.
Absolutely. Christian, let me come back to you. There are so many topics that you could have chosen to include in this. I mean, there are so many issues facing young people today. Why did you choose to tackle the particular issues that you did?
I think we chose these issues because they were just mostly at the forefront of what people are talking about, are the hardest issues to talk to their children about right now. But we are kind of keeping a list of other issues that we know are out there as well. And so maybe there'll be another book with more issues in the future. But these are the ones that are most talked about right now. They're the ones that my mom friends and I are talking about. They're the ones that Andrew has the most questions about when he's out speaking. So these are just kind of ones that are just simmering the most in the culture right now.
Well, I love the way you describe the way the book is organized, where it all starts with a biblical worldview on a topic to begin with. And then there are some basic truths that every parent should know. There's conversation starters, there's memory verses, there's all sorts of stuff. I love the way you put all this to do. How can this be used? I mean, what do you envision this book being utilized as around the home? I mean, we're in a home, you've got the book, you've got some kids. What do you see happening?
I really hope that this book will be a defensive tool. You're driving home from school and your kids ask a question, and you grab the book and you find the topic and you find their age and you tell them really quickly what they need to know, ask them some questions. So a quick reference tool almost in a defensive way to combat what they're asking. But also, we really pray that this could be used as an offensive tool. And we hope to use this in our home as almost a family devotional tool. So we would gather around and study a topic together. Maybe you're going to encounter a family member who is a homosexual at a gathering, or maybe you're about to engage political signs because there's an election coming up, and so your family needs to study the political engagement chapter together. But we're going to gather our family together, and we would read the parent section together to have an understanding of that. Our whole family would memorize the memory verse together. We would look through the different age groups and gather that together with our children and just move together as a family through that, almost like a catechism, talk about the questions.
Andrew, real quickly, running out of time, where can people get the book?
They can find the book at crossway.com. They can find the book at Barnes & Noble. I think Amazon might be the easiest resource at this point. And thankfully, Amazon hasn't canceled the book, so we have that to say for it as well. But I think the biggest thing we want to say to parents is that you've got to take the initiative and responsibility to be the primary discipler on these pressing cultural issues.
Thank you, Andrew and Christian Walker. What do I say when? Folks, go get the book. Powerful resource.